Well, hello. I was having some technical difficulties there. And today my husband's at work. So it's just kind of me doing this. And I'm not even sure I have my notes. So I may have to up where I can read them. So I'm going to real quick wait and see if there's anybody that's going to come on. And let's see if I can send this over to where I need it. So, how are you guys doing? We've still got a whole bunch of people that are in a mess around Nashville. And I have heard that some of them have their stuff, their uh, power back on. And okay, so this is the problem. Oh dear. I'm so sorry. A little bit of technical difficulties. So there we go. There we go. It looks like I got him solved. It's nice when a plan comes together finally, even on air. Okay. Let's see. That worked. Good. So we are doing today an ongoing series, that's under the title of Titus 2:4. And in Titus 2:4, you will find that God tells to St. Paul, that the older women have his authority. In fact, his God's is giving older women the responsibility of training the young mothers how to love their husbands and children. Well, we deal with the children on here. And I think it's really funny because there are a bunch of women in their who are mothers right now, who are out there taking this as they're in their late 30s and they're going, "Oh, I'm that older woman." I find that very funny. On many levels, that's just funny to think that they're the elderly women that Titus 2 is talking about. But again, there are many women in their 30s who have a lot more, I wouldn't say experience, but a little bit more, maybe more wisdom if they're godly women and they had godly mothers and godly grandmothers, then it's very possible that they will one day be those elderly women that God wants to go and help women and mothers in the future. Okay, so this particular episode, we're going to take a couple twists and turns because we're we're going to be making a point. First, we're going to talk about giving older people confidence and courage. And when I talk about older people, I'm talking about older than me. I'm grandmother age. I've got 4 grandkids. And actually 5 if we talk about the ones that are one of them is in heaven. And so I've got 5 then. And so I was an older grandmother. I wasn't a young whippersnapper. So I'm talking about people that are much older than myself, like my parents' age. So we're going to talk about giving our parents in their 70s, 80s, etc., confidence, and maybe that will help us understand why we need to give our young people confidence. Okay, everyone needs to feel competent and independent. It's part of our human experience from toddler to the time we die. It is important for us to feel competent and feel like we're independent, that we're not completely, I mean, we're never going to be independent of God. Men will never be independent in the fact that they have to submit to God. And, they're priests, and the priests have to do it to the bishops, and bishops to the Pope, and Pope to God. So, really, we're all in a submission, a submissive situation, but we do still, even then, even God gives us a lot of freedom and autonomy. But this need to be competent and independent never goes away. Now, you've seen it in children. By the time a child is 2, they want to be in charge. No, don't take that away from me. I want to do this. I want to do that. You can see that. That's one of the very first things that we display as part of our humanness is we want to be in charge of our own life. We don't want people telling us what to do. And that never goes away. When people do not feel able to care for themselves as they get older, they will give up. And so we want to make sure that we don't ever encourage our older people to give up. Now, you'll see this a lot in nursing homes. People will revert to their childhood and to their even being a baby. When you are are mentally healthy and you're put in a old folks home, and I'm talking about where you don't, you're basically wheeled around and stuff, and you don't get to choose what you eat, and you don't get to choose what you do anything. Someone's taking over for you. A lot of older people just go insane, and you'll see them. They just have this glazed look, over their eyes, and I know you'll worry about your parents when they get older, and many of you are worrying about your parents right now because you have older parents, and I do get that. Um, but it is actually those people who worry and try to be in charge and take charge of their parents that can sometimes make the worst decisions for their parents. You need to help your children, help your parents to live independently. Do not take charge of their keys. Don't walk in and go, "Okay, I'm taking the keys," their wallets, their schedules, their opinions, until it is absolutely necessary. You take things away from them when they will either kill themselves or others. And when you have just one person making that decision, it's like especially a female, or like a daughter, sometimes they will overblow how bad things are. So you might need to have a few people who know these parents to help her make the call. Okay, let me explain. Even some doctors and nurses are not capable of making the final decision about this. They can get things wrong. It's not just nurses and doctors that need to sign off on, okay, this person is unable to take care of themselves. You're going to need, it needs a collaboration with all the children and friends as well as family. If the people who live closest to them. Okay, but now I want to give you an example of what I mean. Sometimes older people lose their hearing and they lose some of their eyesight. And you're just looking in on them and you say, "Oh wait, they're starting to leave the water on in the bathroom. They're starting to leave the stove on. Oh dear, they're losing it, mom and dad, or they don't remember what they ate for breakfast." No, 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 no. These things, but they need to be assessed. Y There are people, we don't realize how much our hearing and our eyesight clue us in on what is happening when have a little bit of blurry eyesight. We can sing crazy, and what you need to do is make sure their eyesight is okay. If mom, is not acting right, go have her eyes checked, have our ears checked, and help her. That's where you can help her. Drive her there, have it checked, and then help her get hearing aids. Help her, get some glasses. Don't make the final decision, but offer up things. Now, the reason I say this is because I am deaf in one ear, and I've been deaf in one ear for 10 years. When I was in an accident, one of my ears had 100% hearing loss, and they can do something to help me, but they said it will distort the sound of music, and they will distort sounds. You can hear them, but they will be distorted. And I decided I would rather, because my music is my love language. I used to be a singer, a professional singer. I mean, I grew up singing. Music is just, I love, love, love music. And so forget it. Just forget it. I would rather not hear well than have to hear better and not be able to appreciate music. Okay. So what happens is if I if I turn on the water, like I wash my hands and I turn on the water, and then something distracts me. I get a phone call and I will immediately run over, or somebody's at my door. Something gets me away from, immediately gets me away from that situation, and I go off, and I'll come back and I'll realize about an hour later, or whatever it was, I'm not exactly sure, 15 minutes, an hour later, my my water's on. But you see, I couldn't hear the water staying on. I couldn't hear it. The things that we rely on, the sounds, the smells, the sounds, that what we can see to clue us in on reality. And if you are not losing your mind, you just are. You can't get the clues because you can't hear. And so people will go, "Oh, no. Oh, no. It's mom's losing it." No, she's not. She can't hear. Go have her hearing checked. Okay. So allow your parents then to have a final decision on things. It's not always a mental problem. Maybe it's something else. Do not take parents' independence. Sorry. Do not take parents' independence away from them until they have lost their ability to think. Now, if it's total physical mobility, okay, I get it. But they have to be taken care of. But even then, remember, it's not their mind. They need to be given as much independence and make them feel competent and confident, no matter what it is, if their brain still works. Now, here's a question you can think about that may help you. If your parents say, "I don't know where I put my keys," that is not an indication that there's anything wrong with them mentally. It is when your parent says, "What is that?" and they don't know what their keys are. That's when, okay, now dementia has set in, when they don't remember what keys are, not where they are, but what they are. Okay, one little clue. Okay, now I want to deconstruct this, or make it evolve back into de-evolve into childhood, and deconstruct the same idea to understand our children. We as parents need to understand that everyone has, even children, need to feel competent, and how that's going to give our children confidence and courage to navigate life. Okay. Don't make the parental mistake of raising children to think they are incapable. This is something that from the time they're very, very little, 2 years old, you can start helping them feel capable. Raise them to believe that they will be utterly capable of being independent when they're an adult. So this is age appropriate, of course. You can't tell a child, at 7, oh, you're capable of staying by yourself, all day, or you're capable of driving a car when they're 11. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about age appropriate responsibility that helps them feel confident and gives them courage in life. Now, one of the ways you can help them is don't the bottom line, the very bottom line in this, the lowest common denominator is don't criticize them all the time. Listen respectfully to what they say. And I know that sounds very counterintuitive to many young Christians today because their parents and grandparents listened to the gentle parenting thing that everybody makes fun of. Of course you need to be in charge and they need to know that's going to actually give them a lot of confidence and a lot of um, courage when they see you are in charge and you're listening. When the competent, courageous, and confident parent listens very carefully to the children and tells them and gives them advice, that's going to you are the example to them. So if you just allow them to take over and you're like, "Oh, whatever you guys want," and you're this gentle parent letting them be in charge, you will actually subvert what you're trying to do. But what I mean by this is when they say something dumb, you don't need to make them feel dumb. It's not just okay for children to say something dumb. It's expected that they're going to say those things or ask questions that are dumb. It's expected. It's okay if they want to know what color the sky is when they've never been told or even don't understand color yet. It's okay when a grandparent asks what an app is when they've never dealt with a computer or phone. We're not born with wisdom or knowledge or experience. It takes many decades for us to learn, and we will be learning until we die. So let's not start thinking we know everything because you're never going to. As a matter of fact, one of the things I'm experiencing, and I'm in my 60s, is that the older you get, first of all, you know what to be afraid of. It's not that your fears go away, but you've honed down what you should be afraid of. And so you've gotten rid of some of the things that you don't need to be afraid of. And so a lot of young people have never had the experience of knowing what they've never been tried. They've never been pushed. They don't know what's survivable. Children, when they're little, they don't think things are survivable. And if they aren't given anything to push back, where they have to push back and they have to learn that they can survive criticism and they can survive discipline and they can survive it, they aren't going to know it. And so they become adults that don't know they can survive. So it's very important that when children, you allow them to fall and bump their knee, and you don't keep them from every single bump or every single. You want to teach them when it isn't, and when it's not something dangerous. You don't want to fall on if there's scissors when they're little. That would be stupid. But if you see them, hey, you're going to step on that block and that's going to hurt you. Oh, you can't step on. Don't walk in the bumps in the road. What are they called? The sidewalk. Don't walk there. Oh, you'll fall. You'll fall. If it's 4 inches, it's okay. Let them make some mistakes. That's important. Becoming a parent. Okay, this is where I'm going to take up for you guys a little bit, young parents. Becoming a parent for the first time is a huge learning experience yourself. And you and your baby are in a very new experience together. It's going to take a ton of time and effort to figure out how this works and to make it work well. Listening is good parenting. Listening to advice is just good parenting. It's not an indictment of your competence or your intelligence. You and your baby are in a similar place of unfamiliarity. Therefore, have some compassion on your child when they don't understand things in the same way you're going to have some things, and you need to have a little compassion on yourself when you become impatient, when you experience things you did not expect as a new parent. So, the same way you're made better by being confident and courageous, you should teach your children the same thing. A smart parent encourages a child to talk to them about what they think, because that's going to give you a treasure trove of information so you can help guide your child to what's right. Now you're not going to okay, I've seen this before in my life where parents are pretty much don't say anything. If you have an opinion, I'll give it to you. That is okay in certain circumstances, but beware. You don't want that at all. You need to listen to your child, because you're going to find out what's going on in that mind of theirs. And that will help you teach your child what is right. Listen for little clues. Oh, it's okay. It's okay. It wasn't really a lie. Really? That wasn't really a lie? Well, let's think about it. You won't know what they're thinking to help them if all you do is criticize and tell them to be quiet. When your child says something stupid or something wrong, use that moment to give them better information that they can use. If you make them feel stupid, they will either grow up determined to show you they aren't stupid. Now, a lot of people think, oh no, when you want kids to go, no, I'd rebel against it. I'm going to be smart because my parent, and that works out sometimes, but sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes that, I'll show them attitude can really lead to pride, anger, resentment, and rebellion. Or it could lead to a child who never leaves their childhood and doesn't trust themselves to make any decisions and doesn't trust themselves to know anything. And that's the biggest disaster right there. You don't want children to be perpetually children because they don't have the confidence to become adults. So, how do we instill in our children confidence and courage? And why is this so vitally important? Children that trust themselves or will trust themselves to do what they believe to be right and not forever stay in fear and be unsure of what choice to make is going to be a healthy child. You can see this in children who can't make even the simplest choices for fear, they'll make the wrong ones. Now, I'm just going to insert here, many parents are perfectionists, and they will actually enforce on their children such a high perfection that children will give up and not they'll just like, okay, I'm going to be a zombie. That's what parents want. I have to be perfect at every situation. And you will undermine their kindness and their compassion to others and their judgmentalism. But then you are going to undermine their feelings of confidence. And that's very, very bad. How do we get our children? Okay, one other quick thing. Sorry, I went too quick. Children do not do wrong on their own incentive. Not always, anyway, but because they're being pressured to do it by others. And if you make them feel incompetent in their decision, they will always outsource their decisions to others. And when it becomes when it comes to peer pressure and morals, you don't want your children outsourcing the decision to others. You want them to have the confidence to stand up and the courage to stand up for what they believe is right. And actually, I should just say what is right. How do we get our children to be mature enough to say no when pressured? Talk to your children, ask them questions, and realize God has given you these children to cultivate, not control. Acclimated in school because they are so young that, okay, I'm sorry. When they get acclimated in school and they don't have the confidence, they're just going to follow the crowd, like I said. When you send your children to school too early, and you've made them learn not to stand out, just follow the crowd, um, you've now created children with no courage. So don't do that. Parents need to be engaged in instilling courage and confidence without being arrogant and know it all. And that's actually a fine line to walk to walk as a parent. And we'll try to get I actually have this scheduled for another episode, is how to keep your children from being arrogant when you've worked so hard to instill confidence. And I'm going to get a little bit into this in just a second. How do you teach them to be humble and love when how do you keep them from becoming arrogant? But you don't want that either. So, all right, we're going to get to that in a second. Don't freak out if they get everything wrong at first. Life takes practice. They need some experience. You've got to fall before you can walk. So your children are going to make mistakes. It's okay. Don't make them feel horrible for making mistakes. Help them through it. We're not just teaching them to stand up for themselves, but for them to stand up in doing what is right. Now, one of the things you can do that you're not going to like to hear, but it's absolutely true, you need to be their example. Children need to see their parents stand up and be courageous and confident. If your kids are watching something as Christian parents, if we see something in the videos or YouTube videos or a movie that you see that takes the Lord's name in vain, that maybe goes too far with language or sexual content or violent content, they need to watch you stand up and shut it off and say, nope, mommy doesn't need to see this. Not about the kids. Mommy doesn't need to see this. This is not good for mommy to see. This is not good for daddy to see. This is not good for anyone to see. Because if you just say to your children, oh, kids shouldn't watch this, then they're going to think that you're watching this when they're not around. And if it's inappropriate, it's inappropriate. Let them see you turn off the television. Let them see you publicly turn away from some sin. Let them clearly see what is right and wrong. And then you affirm them when they do what's right. Generally, children want to please you. So you just need to explain to them what is good. That it's not just about pleasing mom, which, of course, they will please. Let them know that they're going to please you when you do what's right. But it's not just about pleasing mom. It's like you do what is right and wrong even when mom's not around. Okay. They need to see that you survive doing the right thing. They need to see that your actions do not equal everything falling apart when you do what is right. They've gotta see embarrassment. Now this is huge. This my parents taught us very, very well. Embarrassment is not the worst thing in the world. There are people who have never been embarrassed. I mean, until they're in their in high school, and they immediately fold when they're embarrassed because 'cause they've never been embarrassed before. No, you need to teach your child, just stand up and walk off. Okay, I'm gonna tell you a story about what happened to me, and I was 16 years old, and I was learning to drive. So I was a little tiny, church school girl, and I, had very little experience in life, and I walked into it was I was, going to downtown Dallas to get my driver's license, and of course, you have to go to school. Well, we had this room, there were probably 50 kids, trying to get their license. Most of them were 16-year-old boys. So, I was working for my grandfather, and I had a little wraparound skirt with a tie on the side, and I don't know what happened. I just haven't I was called up to the front to get one of the test results. I don't know. I'm assuming that somebody pulled on the string. My skirt went all the way down. I was horrified. I ran outside and it was freezing cold. I remember this in Dallas because I didn't I just my dad dropped me off and I just went directly into the classroom, so I didn't need a coat. But I sat out there for my I shivered in the cold for my dad, and it had to be an hour because I mean, I'm sure because I don't this must have happened at the beginning of the class, but I was out there and I had to keep ducking back in just to get warm and then come back out and just pray my dad came before the class was over. And I kinda walked up the side of the building so nobody saw me. I was horrified. I was so embarrassed, and I told my grandmother, and my grandmother said, "Excuse me, don't you ever be embarrassed. You walk back into that classroom with your head held high, and you walk in, and it just does not matter what other people think of you. And you've got to be brave and courageous and just go in and don't let it bother you." That was hard. That was hard, but that was one of the things that taught me you survive embarrassment. It's not the worst thing in the world, but it can feel like it. You know what? Once you've survived embarrassment, once you feel competent and courageous, you'll start to like yourself. And of course, it's nice to have positive feedback from your parents. However, you do need to tell your children doing the right thing doesn't always feel good. You may not get accolades for doing the right thing, but criticism. Let me tell you what happened with the teacher. After I pulled together the courage to go back to that class, my driver's ed teacher dismissed the class at the next class, that I was at. And he said, "Teresa, I need you to stay afterwards." And I went up there and he goes, "You did that on purpose, didn't you? I may have to just not allow you to come back to this class if you're going to be pulling those kind of antics." Oh, I was so horrified. I was so horrified. I don't know that I cried. I probably felt like I was going to and just tell him, "No, it was believe me, it was an accident. I didn't do it on purpose." But anyway, he thought I was trying to get attention because there were so many boys in this class. Okay, you've got to let your child know it's wonderful to get accolades from other people when you do the right thing. But you know what? You're not going to always get that. You sometimes are going to be highly criticized, but that's okay. Again, that's the second stage even further because once they have confidence and courage to even withstand criticism for doing the right thing, they are really becoming morally healthy. Now, your children, of course, are going to be morally healthier if they have confidence and courage. Your child will be more less likely to be stressed overall if they have confidence and courage to do the right thing. And one of the ways of to help give them this, of course, this courage, the number one way is your prayers. Be example of courage and confidence. Give them responsibility. And so you can instill in them some competence in your children. They need to feel competent in what they're doing. That gives them confidence and courage to do it again. So make them feel competent. Eventually, they will resent false compliments. So don't give them false, give them age appropriate compliments. Eventually, they will see through fake and excessive praise. It will undermine what you're trying to do, or it could just make them a know it all and instill pride, which is again the opposite of what you want to do. So let me just end with three things. Pray about all of this at all times that you will help your child feel competent and that will give them confidence and courage to work hard, do the right thing, be the leader when they need to be the leader, be the follower and know when you shouldn't follow somebody, you know? Have those red flags, give them the confidence to know and the courage to say, "Wait, I shouldn't be following this crowd," when they said, "Oh, everyone's doing it." Okay, so pray and then be an example of it yourself. Let your children see you as their hero. That's very important. You be courageous, you be confident, you be confident. M Make that your first priority when you get married. Prepare to have children. Start that right now if you've never been married. If you don't have any children, start now practicing your own personal righteousness. And I don't mean righteousness in that way. I mean, God will make you holy and be righteous, but start actively searching out God to make you holy so that your children will see that in you. Okay. And the third is give them responsibility and let them know when they've done it well. Okay. Pray, be a good example, give them responsibility so they can learn to be competent, confident, and courageous. Okay. I know I was repetitive, but my husband said that's important. He said, just if you have to say it over and over and again, say it over and over again. Okay, well, that's all. And I will be doing some more live today. God bless you and have a wonderful day. But I'm not, it's not going to be on Titus 2:4. I think I'm going to do something on another subject a little bit later. So, God bless.